Hello YouTube, my name is TheNobody, and today I'm interviewing Bearing, and I brought a guest with me, DDJ MGTOW.
Yo.
What's going on, people?
What was it, DDJ MGTOW? What does DDJ stand for?
Doomsday Jesus.
Okay.
I always wanted to ask you that.
Yeah, it actually, I used it to piss off the evangelical Christians back in the day, when I started playing the original Counter-Strike.
Yeah.
Well, back when everyone the skeptic community, I guess, didn't like Christians too much.
This was before that. This was in the 90s when Counter-Strike was brand new. We were playing online, and I'm old, and these evangelical Christians would come onto the server, and they would start talking about God, and I just got furious, so I decided to just change my name. And
you would have been playing over dial-up, yeah?
No, we had the internet back then. This is the late 90s. We had I actually had SDSL. I was one of the few that did. Yeah, I ran servers and stuff back then.
Okay.
But I am the original Doomsday Jesus on the internet.
How would they know that it stands for Doomsday? For what your name stands for, basically.
Well, we just told them on the stream, and those who know me know what it means. But yeah, I use the Doomsday Jesus moniker, but since I don't really do that kind of online gaming anymore, I just shortened it to DDJ.
So anyway, I'll start off with the questions. I actually heard from someone in the Discord that you're apparently engaged to Sugar Tit.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, we've been engaged for 2 years. Oh, sorry, can I swear? Or am I not offending anyone?
I mean, I don't really care.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, if you swear, does it like block the video on YouTube or something?
No.
Oh, okay.
Not at all. Yeah, we've been engaged for about 2 years, but it's one of those things that, like, I think we just did it to, like, I think she wanted a fucking ring, and it was sort of like to make the like mum and dads and fucking grandparents happy sort of thing. Like, oh, we got engaged, but we're not. I don't think we're the sort of people who will. We're not rushing to get married. Put it that way. I can't stand the fucking thought of doing a wedding. Fuck that.
Yeah, but aren't you already married, like under the law, I guess? Because I saw you on the MGTOW 101 TFM live stream, and like apparently you're married to her technically.
Under the law, yeah, no doubt. I mean, I've got no problem with that. I just don't want to fucking do a wedding.
You don't want the ceremony.
Yeah. It's
expensive. Yeah.
Mm.
So, Bearing, you know what that means?
What does that mean?
You can't be a MGTOW. I'm sorry to disappoint you.
Hey, fucking, what's his name? Didn't turd fleeing monkey guy make me a fucking honorary MGTOW? I'm pretty sure he did. And if he didn't, I'm making that up.
Well, he's not the king of MGTOWs.
I'm sure, yeah. MGTOW's a philosophy, it's not a movement, but I'm sure that...
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure there's cards and shit, guys. I'm pretty sure I've got a card and everything.
Perfect.
Yeah, hand in your MGTOW badge.
Did you renew your dues?
Yeah.
So then
yeah, the whole MGTOW thing is more like with some of the guys who talk about it, you'd think it would be like the SJW version of the oppression Olympics. I'm more MGTOW than you. Okay, whatever. No offense to MGTOW, there are some weird MGTOWs. There
definitely.
Are. Like,
yeah.
like, have you guys heard of that traversable MGTOW? He's a weird one. He's a weird one.
I haven't.
I haven't seen him either. I tend to stick to the, I guess, more like Barbarossa, Thinking 8, TFM type MGTOW. So I personally haven't.
Yeah, so those guys are alright. Have a look at this guy. Traversable MGTOW. I don't think his heart's in the wrong place, but he's just bizarre. I got in a war with him a few months ago, and it didn't end pretty.
So what you're saying is that some night when I'm intoxicated, I should watch you guys' videos going back and forth?
Yeah, absolutely. It's good fun.
Perfect.
Wait, so you actually had like a war with him?
Yeah. He actually threatened to fucking send someone to kill me like a couple of weeks ago. It was quite intense.
Wait,
that's romantic.
Have you actually been doxxed? Because that's what I heard. Like someone doxxed you.
I have been. I was doxxed in in December last year. I was doxxed, but I mean, who gives a fuck? Like, yeah.
Yeah,
if someone's got a problem with me, come and tell me about it. It's I can't see what big crazy powerful motherfucker's going to go. Right, I've got a serious problem. Anyone who's of note, is going to go. I've got a serious problem with this bear who tells jokes on the internet. Like, fuck off, It's if anyone's got a problem with me, it's going to be some fucking cockhead that I don't give a shit about. So fuck it.
Just threats on the internet.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing to worry about. Sorry, I was kind of curious what you think of this whole Lacey Green thing.
Look, I think there's a lot of people making it into more than it is. Like I've heard a couple of people sort of say, "Oh, now that you're on our side and shit," that's not what she said at all. If you actually watch a video and listen to it, she actually reaffirms the fact that she's a feminist.
Yeah.
And all she does is say, "But I'm willing to listen to people. I'm willing to talk to people now," which is a great thing.
I don't get why they said she. Some people say she's been red pill. That doesn't make any sense. I mean, I tend to use the red pill more like
I think those are people who are attracted to her, and they're just simping for red pill.
Look, I'm willing to listen and sort of give her the benefit of the doubt, but I mean I'm not sort of sitting here on the sidelines going, "Yay, Lacey, you're one of us now." I'm pretty impartial to be honest with you.
Yeah, but to quote Tittle there, actually I really agree with him on this. Is basically once the community gets big enough and the women start joining, you're gonna get a lot of white knights along with it as well, and it's gonna become impossible to critique any of the attractive women without having a horde of white knights attack you.
I get that. I get the logic behind that, but I mean, I'd also add that I don't think that every time someone steps into to defend a chick, it's necessarily white knighting. Like I got involved in a thing with where what's her name, Roaming Millennial interviewed Richard Spencer a few weeks ago. Now, that's something that I've been all over. Like I've had a lot to do with talking about this Richard Spencer. Everyone's calling him a Nazi and all that sort of shit. So it was something that I was over anyway. So I think I don't think every time someone sort of jumps in to defend a chick, it's white knighting. But I do get his point though. I do.
Well, and I think that the conversation that people aren't really having about the whole Lacey Green situation is this idea that she might be attempting to do this in an attempt to co-opt some of the red pill space to make room for she and her allies. And what I mean by that is that Lacey still has a lot of connections, and I think she's still directly sponsored by MTV. And,
I was just thinking that. Yeah, I was just thinking the implications of that.
Yeah, I don't think that this was a decision that Lacey made. I think that this was a decision that was made in a boardroom somewhere.
Really?
Because you look at her videos and you look at I always say look at their actions in addition to what they say, and you get a better picture of what's going on. And if you look at what was going on right before she took her hiatus, she had more downvotes than upvotes on a lot of her videos.
Yeah, that's right. That's true.
People were just ripping her to shreds on the internet. Like YouTube channels that were basically unknown were showing up and providing just amazing commentary about how hypocritical her views were. And so I think what happened was somebody said, "Look, you got to shut her down." And she was losing it. She lost it when Trump won the election. I think those things were genuine. Well, it's never funny when somebody has an emotional breakdown.
Yeah, and if it wasn't MTV, I mean, 'cause I hear what you're saying, but I find it hard to believe MTV would say go and make peace with these people. Maybe they said, "Listen, bitch, your ratings are woeful. Do something to fix them."
Right, and that's what I think. Yeah, that's exactly. But my point is that I think that regardless of what that conversation was, she had to change her tone in order to maintain her space online because, and you can even see that since she took her hiatus, Google has started more aggressively censoring videos. Facebook has started more aggressively censoring videos. people are now, like in the European Union, they're trying to introduce laws. Exactly. So, we see this huge amount of censorship, and I think what MTV and people like them are trying to do is they're trying to figure out how to use the YouTube space in order to find their own space. And they're using Lacey Green as like the canary in the coal mine. We'll send her in and see if she can kind of make peace with some of these people, find some common ground, and then we can stay relevant again, and we can still monetize Lacey and use her. But
then again, YouTube have got an eye on sort of making the platform just like everyday TV. So I don't think that can be part of the YouTube's grand plan. But anyway, yeah. Look, I mean, as far as MTV or whatever, it'd be interesting to know what the arrangement between MTV and Lacey is. I'd love to be privy to those details.
Yeah, it definitely would have some entertainment value. The reason I say it is because, and this is the part where I show for my book. I'm about to release a book called The Feminist Lie, and one of the things I talk about in my book is I talk about an old school tactic called entryism, and it was developed by Trotsky in the 1930s. And basically, what it's done is a lot of socialists and communists used it originally to enter groups under false pretenses and enter organizations under false pretenses, and then co-opt those groups for their purposes. And the example I use in my book is Anita Sarkeesian, where I show how, she shows up on the scene. I'm a video gamer. Look at me. Oh yeah, feminism is a thing. And then eventually she gets all the way to the United Nations, and, they actually bill her as a quote unquote victim of cyber violence, which, is entertaining in and of itself. But then, a video in 2011 comes out where she says, I was never a video gamer. I didn't like video games. And I just did this to push feminism. That's a classic example of entryism. I'd
love to read that. When does it come out?
It's going to actually be coming out really quick. And if you're actually interested in reading it, I will send you a pre-release copy. And then you can look at it, and hopefully, we can talk about it on your stream as well, or the three of us can get together again.
It's supposed to be about second wave feminism, right? You said part of it.
There's an entire chapter where I talk about second wave and first wave feminists and how they're no different than what I'm seeing today. I also go into how the social justice movement was created by feminism.
Did you also say first wave? Did you talk about first wave as well?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so that's something else I wanted to kind of bring up with Bering, because I know I hear a lot from, I think really just mostly the female anti-feminists about, basically praising first and second wave feminism. But I've noticed that you guys tend to, I guess almost maybe even deliberately kind of avoid that subject. I was kind of wondering.
You're starting to sound like Angry MGTOW. This is Angry MGTOW's line of questioning, mate. This I've been through this. This is come on, mate.
I never watched the thing.
I've got no problem with. I mean, look, the idea of women being able to vote, no problem at all. No problem at all. No, the idea of women. Oh, it's not your question.
No, finish and then I'll say what I want to say.
I beg your pardon. I may have jumped the gun.
No, it's fine. Just finish what you were saying, and I'll.
I was just going to say. I mean, first and second wave feminism. No, I don't really have a massive problem with them. I mean, as far as I understand, first wave was the vote, and second wave was about wages and that sort of shit. I've got no problem with that either, as long as it is legitimately, equal work for equal pay.
Yeah, no, so, I mean, I think we agree. It's just maybe you misunderstood me. I didn't mean that women shouldn't vote. My main idea is that certain criteria that need to be met for anyone, man or woman.
Oh, you sort of leaning towards like the draft and that sort of thing.
Yeah,
I've got an interesting take on that. I mean, look, the way I see it, and look, you guys, what do MGTOW call people? They call people simps. You probably call me a simp, right? But I mean, if you look at history, and I'm not talking the last 100 years, I'm talking the last 10,000, the last 100,000 years.
Big picture.
We've men and women have had certain roles, Now the men. It's always been up to the men to protect the family, to be the protectors, right? And that's why men are drafted and in the army. And it's always been on the women to be the family makers. They make the people. You know, someone's got to look after the people. Someone's got to make the people and look after the people for there to be people to defend. If you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I kind of see, and I've copped a lot of shit about it. You know, go nuts. You know, I kind of see childbearing and blokes defending their families or defending their countries as kind of a trade-off, as kind of, you know, a quid pro quo.
Do you mind if I jump in?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. I agree with you 100%. I don't think that you're a simp for having that view. And I will say this. I do think, though, respectfully, I do think that you make the same mistake that most people make when speaking about feminism. And this isn't a conscious mistake. I think it's a mistake because of the way feminism has been packaged and marketed. And that is that if you believe in feminism, you believe in equal rights for women. And I disagree with that pretense completely because
with equal rights for women.
No. I agree. I disagree. There are women out there. I agree with you. There's a trade-off. You know, men and women are different. And if you look at the studies, for example, right? Like you looked at the United States Marine Corps just did a study and said, look, mixed gender platoons or mixed gender fighting units do worse than all male units. And so that goes back to that old adage where, yeah, the women took care of the children, they took care of the house, they took care of all the domestic duties. The men did everything be like outside the house. So it was sort of like a traditional CIA FBI relationship where the FBI in the United States took care of everything within the country and the CIA did everything outside the country. So
I didn't know that. I just learned something.
Yeah, that's the original reason they were formed. The CIA, it was illegal for them to function inside the United States except when it came to foreign threats, and then the FBI was created to police domestic threats.
Who looks after the aliens? Is that CIA?
Right now I think it's the SJWs. But with that in mind, to bring this full circle, I think that men and women should be equal in responsibility and demonstrate equal rights. But I don't think that saying that women deserve equal rights means that I support feminism. Feminism is not about women; it is an ideology.
Well, it depends what you mean by. What do you mean by feminism?
I mean, the original form of feminism. The original form of feminism was developed as an ideology. It was not developed as it was an ideology that purported to speak for all feminists, for all women.
From the start, wasn't it kind of based on like patriarchy theory?
Well, I mean, that's a given. I mean, that's a given. But what I'm saying is that feminism was developed as an ideology. It was not developed because women were not necessarily getting equal rights. See, historically, when you talk about the last 400 or 500 years, rights across the globe were the direct result of responsibilities. So if you served in the military, like in Roman times, if you served in the military, that's how you got your right to vote in Roman times. In ancient Rome.
I think it was like a few other things, like you had to be like a third generation citizen.
Yeah,
I can see your point in as far as, I mean, as far as I understand, when first wave feminists were pushing for women's suffrage, not all men had the right to vote. I mean,
the strongest women they actually voted against women's suffrage. Some of the loudest voices in the feminist movement, because women's suffrage came through. I don't know, like a couple times at least between like the Civil War and 1920 when in the United States, and I'm only speaking of the United States women's suffrage. I'm not talking about across the globe, but in the United States, women actually got the right to vote in 1920. But even
2021, I think.
Oh, I thought it was 1913.
The law was passed in 1920. I think it actually took effect the following year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
I mean, look, I'm fine with. Let me adjust my statement then. The things that the rights that feminism in the first and second wave purported to be pushing for, I've got no problem with. I mean,
right.
You may make a point. I mean, as far as the ideology of feminism goes, no, I've got no boner for that. That's for sure.
Okay.
Bearing,
yeah, that's all I was trying to say. Is I think that women and do deserve equal rights when it comes to equal responsibilities, but I disagree that feminism speaks for all women. That's all I was saying.
No, that's a fair point. Actually, that's
Bearing, going back to what you said before. I mean, I have to both agree and disagree with you, because at the same time that I don't, I do have a hard time saying you shouldn't vote, because there are a lot of people that I'm sure would love to, I know, fight alongside the men, but can't. But on the other hand, I still see a problem with it, because at the end of the day, voting is kind of like this, part of it is also deciding what countries you go to war with, and I still have the a problem with
So you're saying it should only be on the people who defend that country to decide those things. What about the people who make the people who do the defending?
Well, my argument to that would be that number one, it's the draft isn't a choice. It's forced upon you. Well, childbearing. No pun intended.
But in the grand scheme of things, childbearing isn't a choice either, because if no one does it, then we cease to exist. Yeah, individually, yeah, sure, it's a choice, but it has to happen, doesn't it?
Yeah, I agree. In the past, it wasn't as much of a choice as it was now. I mean, I'd say it wasn't forced upon anyone, but it was pretty much a given that just about any woman would have some kids. But now things have definitely changed. I mean, but really, if you want to go to my ideal, my utopia, it's really just I guess like a libertarian society where basically you have the non-aggression principle, and I know a lot of people disagree with me on it, but I really don't like the idea of voting in general, because at the end of the day, it's just a way for 51% of the population they basically have the right to do almost anything they want to 49%.
Well, what's the better system?
I don't think it's ever been tried before, but my ideal system is that for certain things you don't get to vote on, like when it comes to legalizing drugs or not. Really, just as I said, the non-aggression principle. So as long as what you do doesn't harm anyone else, that's your business.
Yeah, but that doesn't you need a bit more than the non-aggression.
No,
principle
I agree. I agree.
Govern the country.
So some things need to be elaborated on, and also if you don't vote, then there's a problem with the military and such things. I agree that what I said just now is way too simplistic. It's just what my idea, if I'm going to simplify it, what my more ideal type system is, because I really hate the idea of just telling people what to do. But I also don't like other people. I also don't like other people telling me what to do. And when it comes to voting, at the end of the day, there is other people telling you how you can spend your money, or what country you have to go to war with, or if you're allowed to smoke weed or not. And I don't want them to tell me, and I don't want to tell them.
So what are your thoughts on say the electoral college that's supposed to stamp out the tyranny of the majority?
Yeah, I never really quite got how that stamps out the tyranny of the majority.
The electoral college was actually created to keep people in power, and the problem that you have with it is that originally when they had the electoral college, a lot of people they were not literate, they couldn't read, they didn't understand the concepts, they were literally simple farmers, they were sort of like uneducated people from the third world. So the electoral college was a group of people that had a little bit more, knowledge and education, and then they were trusted with that knowledge and education. They were trusted with the responsibility to help elect the president of the United States, for example. Now, I don't know if there's an electoral college or how that works in Australia, or if there's some kind of system like that in Europe. But I do know that that's how it kind of, in real broad strokes, that's how it was in the United States.
Yeah, no, in Australia it's just pure democracy, just the numbers win.
And we need that in the United States. I think that if we had that in the United States, I think that would help. But here's the other side. If you look at the 2016 election, right, the United States has a population of roughly 350 million people, something like that. And I could be off by a few million. But when it came to the electoral, like the 2006 general election or 2016 general election, like only 50% of the people of voting age voted.
Yeah.
So, you have half the country who just in effect doesn't have a voice.
What would they do? They choose. I mean, surely choosing not to speak is having a voice.
Well, we have a
Not really.
really what a lot of people talk about is, how wonderful things are in the United States economically, and the reality is that we're turning into a third world country when it comes to broken down infrastructure, cities going bankrupt,
Yeah, and
things
the
like
huge
that.
debt, the huge debt. in
Well,
America.
yeah, the debt's just
fucking
one
invading
small
countries.
aspect.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, and so you have all these people that are desperate, and so I'm a fan of Maslow's 7 levels of needs. And so if you have all these people that are desperate and they're in debt, and most people don't have a savings account in the United States, they're going to be more concerned about their job and about getting to and from work than they are about voting. We should have a national holiday, like a voting day, an election day, where we all take the day off of work and we all go to the voting booth and go vote.
Do you reckon that would make a huge difference, though?
Yes, I think that it would overnight.
Maybe
you would see everything change.
But surely you wouldn't.
No,
I think my country actually has that.
Well, let's put it this way. Let's just say it's 10 or 15% for sake of argument, right? 25% of the voting population voted for Hillary. 25% of the voting population voted for Trump. 15% more people would change the outcome of the election.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, in Australia, it's actually mandatory to vote. We get fined if we don't vote.
Yeah, and I think that, I don't have a problem with that. I think mandatory voting is important because if you're a citizen,
you've never fucking copped a fine for not voting, have you?
Fair enough. Yeah, I can armchair quarterback something I haven't done all day. Absolutely. So yes, electoral college is crazy. But I think that women could serve in the military. I just don't think they should be serving in a combat capacity.
Yeah, I agree with that. So just to pull back for a second, were you disappointed with the 2016 election result?
We didn't have a choice.
I'm saying personally, were you disappointed with Trump winning?
Here's the thing. I was disappointed in the entire election. I was a Sanders supporter, and once I saw that Sanders had been screwed out of the primary, I just threw my hands up.
You supported Bernie, the guy that said that white people don't know what it's like to be poor?
Bernie's only trying. Bernie never said
some weird
that.
shit to me. He said some fucking weird shit.
Yeah, but he's also, I'm pretty sure the guy's also like a socialist, just like really crazy high taxes.
But before you start going to Bernie's crazy, you have to understand that before the primary ended, he wasn't saying any of that stuff. He wasn't saying any of that stuff. His one of the major things that his platform made sense, which was keeping America.
Isn't that bad? So doesn't that mean he was saying he was just saying what he thought was the right thing while he was in the spotlight? Isn't that a bad thing?
And that's why, like I said, at the time, that's where it was. But once I saw how he got screwed the primary, and I realized that he was just a shill for Hillary to try to bring people back into the fold, I realized at that point that our electoral system is so corrupt that we just didn't have a choice. Because if you look at Hillary and you look at Trump, they're two sides of the same coin on everything except on social justice issues. But when it came to foreign policy, they were almost exactly the same.
Actually, no. Even on social justice issues, I've seen. I made a video about this. Trump is like in some issues he's almost a feminist, like a third wave feminist. I mean, the guy passed the bill trying to get more women into STEM. The classic. We don't have enough women.
I think that's his daughter, isn't it?
No, it was actually him, and his daughter and his wife also, like something about the bullying of women online and that stuff.
Well,
so
Trump in some ways, Trump was not your traditional conservative, because you're absolutely right. There were things that progressives and that liberals have been trying to do for decades. Trump actually did those things in his first 100 days. Like one of the executive orders he did was to help women in STEM. He did another one to help African American colleges. He's done a variety of things.
The bill was very vague. Like, what did it actually do? Because when I read it, all it said was helping women in STEM. It didn't say what it was going to do. It didn't say if it was going to give more funding or anything. All it said was helping women in STEM. That's like just encouraging them. That's it. So what did it actually do?
Well,
shut the fuck up and accept it, you fucking bigot.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. No. It was an executive order. And it basically ordered all the relevant agencies to come up with regulations to do what the order said. So Trump doesn't necessarily he can't create the laws as president. He can only execute the laws as part of the executive branch. But his executive orders, he can tell people what to do. So the idea of his executive order was, I'm going to go ahead and tell the education, secretary or whatever, here, you have to figure out some regulations to make this happen, to make me look good. Basically, all the executive order was in that regard is a hot potato.
Yeah, it did seem very vague. Too vague to mean anything, kind of. But it's interesting that he did it after he was president. Like, he might have actually gotten even more votes if he said he was going to do that before he was elected. I'm kind of curious why he wouldn't just tell the women that that he was planning on doing it.
Because he would lose his base.
Because what?
He would lose his voting base if he had done that.
Oh, yeah, I guess a lot of anti-SJWs voted for him as well.
Yeah. Hey, Barry, I have a question for you about Australia.
Sure.
What is your opinion on that Australian immigrant who avoided jail time, or I should say he was an immigrant to Australia who avoided jail time for sexually assaulting somebody recently? I just read about him.
It's fucking disgusting.
Well, Bering obviously supports him.
No, it's fucking disgusting, and that's I share the attitude of most people. There's very few people here that say, oh, that's fair enough. That's fucking ridiculous. You've come to a new country. You've got to obey the laws of the land. You've got to fit in or fuck off. That was ridiculous. I don't know what happened there.
Well, the question that I have for you on that is, what was the feminist response in Australia to this guy?
I didn't see one, to be honest with you. I didn't. I mean, admittedly, I think these days I sort of have my ear closer to the ground in American stuff. It's funny to say. I was actually having dinner with my mum last week, for Mother's Day, and she was talking about all this Australian politics stuff, and I sort of said, I don't know to a few things, because I think I focus more on American here. Because
I'm assuming your mum and your whole family know about your channel, right?
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
So they support you,
yeah. Yeah. Mum and a few of the siblings or a couple of the siblings were a bit funny about it at first, but yeah, it's all good now. I mean, I think they got the impression I was some what the feminists call me, some horrible fucking troll bully at the start, but as time sort of went along, they saw what it was about and they understand. But you got to understand, I went from an associate director at fucking, a multinational real estate fucking company that, I just sold my business to, only 6 or 8 months previous to when I started doing this full time. So it was and I've been doing that for 10 years. So it was a bit of a shock to the system to say, hey guys, I'm now a fucking cartoon bear on the internet.
So, wait, are you self-employed now, or do you have like your own?
Yeah. So, I'm self-employed.
Because I was always curious about do companies actually fire you once they find out you're an anti-SJW?
I didn't. I quit before that.
Yeah. I realised it was because I've seen.
I think that. I mean, I was lucky enough to have a channel that was able to, more than replace, my income that I was making at the time. So, yeah, that decision was in my hands, thankfully.
Yeah, it's a good thing you got a business now going too, because the whole YouTube ad thing.
Yeah, and I think everyone's copped a hit on that. But I mean, I think there's also a lot of fucking doomsday people out there that are like, you look at fucking what's his name, David Packman. You guys watch David Packman?
No idea.
Oh fucking hell! The world's gonna fucking end. It's I don't think it's that bad. It's not that bad. I mean, but this adpocalypse thing certainly did affect the ad revenue on YouTube. But it's not all about ad revenue.
I do have to agree that not obviously not the world ending there. That's just ridiculous. But I do have to agree that there's definitely something is going to happen. Like, I kind of take TFM's side on this when he said there's going to be some sort of economic collapse. And, the way you're looking at it, I mean, America's definitely running out of money. And since America is the world's police, what's going to happen when America can't police the world anymore? Because
America actually can't right now.
Yeah, I mean, we're way overdue for a good war. This is like the first.
Did I mention how much I admire China?
Perfect.
Yeah, and don't forget about Russia.
Yeah.
But Russia's actually giving away free land right now in Siberia.
Is a fucking Siberia? Fuck. That's an insult.
They're giving. What do you mean they're giving away free land?
They're trying to develop Eastern Russia, and so in an effort to do that, the Russian government has said that if you're willing to develop the land, they will give you the land,
so
and
like
it's free.
Come be a kulak for free.
Yeah, and they're actually opening up to foreign nationals as well. It's not just Russian citizens.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. So if
you want to get eaten by a polar bear,
if you live in America, reserve some land there. Make sure we've got somewhere to go. Because going back to that thing, I mean, America does seem to be kind of like I think I heard that by like maybe around 2030, they're going to run out of the free shit. They're not going to be able to give any more. Well, just like to keep on giving all their citizens free money. People riot over the stupidest shit now. I don't know what, over the dumbest SJW shit. So, what are they going to do once the government can't keep giving them just endless free money?
Well, these people that are fucking got the shits about fucking enforcing the borders. That's fucking ridiculous. That's the country's laws. Of course you should enforce them. That's fucking. Well, why would you ignore illegal immigrants coming? That's stupid.
Well, the challenge that you have, and kind of to take it from a big picture perspective, right now in the United States, we've got, like I said, we've got over 300 million people living here. We have at least 90 million people of working age who are not working, for a variety of reasons. But I mean, a lot of the jobs that were created during the Obama administration were in the restaurant and service industry and retail, so they're not long-term jobs. We've got in the last 10 or 15 years. My personal opinion is we never recovered from the 2007 stock market collapse.
Yeah,
and like I said, cities are going bankrupt. Oakland, California is on the verge of bankruptcy. Detroit, I think, was just coming out of bankruptcy. There's 4 cities.
The national education system's in shambles. I understand.
Yeah, it's horrible. The education system is horrible. The infrastructure is horrible. The state where I live has over 150 bridges that are basically not safe to drive on, and some of these bridges are on federal interstates.
Yeah, it's not good.
It's just the whole infrastructure is falling apart.
Yeah, but when it comes to immigration, I really like the way America used to do it, where it was basically you had no welfare state, but you also had open borders, so. It wasn't attracting the worst, the people that were going to just live off the welfare. They didn't go to America because there wasn't any welfare. So the people that went to America actually, they got jobs. They started from the bottom, rose to the top. That back in the day of the American dream, really. That's the way I like it.
Well, we don't have that world anymore. I mean, back then we didn't have multinational drug cartels or black market organizations, and so that's the big challenge now. So
yeah, I guess
I think you've got to have some level of social security.
I agree.
You should,
but if there's no welfare state, you definitely don't need it as much.
Yeah.
Actually, have you guys heard about that new fake academic paper that just was released in Oregon?
What?
It's called The Conceptual Penis as a Social Construct.
Oh, I did see that. I saw that.
What? I haven't seen it. What's that about?
I didn't fully read into it. What's that
about?
All
right. Let me grab you I'm going to give you a link to the actual article that goes into detail. So basically, these two academics decided that they were furious at the social justice movement and the feminist movement targeting men. I just put a link in the Skype, and I'll put a link to the paper itself.
Oh, I saw that on the lines.
Yeah, they decided to they decided to create this fake paper of gibberish. Oh, shoot, sorry. Spam the second one again. Give me a second here. I actually have a PDF of the actual study itself. They created a paper of gibberish that basically said penis is a social construct, and it was it was a part of the reason for global warming. And everything else in the paper, it's not giving me the. Okay, there's a hot link in the link that I gave you that actually has the paper. It's the title of the paper, and you can go right to the link for it.
Anyway, I can really see the paper from here.
Yeah, so basically the idea was they wanted to create gibberish with a bunch of social justice jargon. So they put all the buzzwords and stuff in the paper. And here's the best part. They submitted it to a social justice friendly academic journal. It was peer reviewed twice. Everybody loved it, and they published it.
That is fantastic.
They really are just becoming parodies of themselves.
Yeah.
Well, it shows the level of intellectual dishonesty in the social justice and feminist movements, because basically it was a man-hating study that basically said men were evil.
Just had the right buzzwords in it.
I never got that. I mean, it's like 1 minute they say there's no such thing as men and women, then they say all men are evil. So make up your mind.
Yeah. I've pondered that in the past as well. I get stuck on that.
Well, I mean, it's been obvious for a while they're not trying to be intellectually honest or anything. They just say we'll get some results. Whatever they'll say whatever they need to say. It doesn't.
So Barry, you said you were aware of this. What did you think of it?
I to be honest with you, I saw the headline and I read the first, a few words of the opening paragraph, and I got distracted. So it was something that I was coming back to, but you've shed a little bit more light on it now. That's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
That is golden. It's like the fucking. Remember the I was talking about this with someone before the. What was it? Feminist glacier study or something that came out a couple of years ago.
I remember that. That was pretty ridiculous.
That was golden.
Anyway, so actually, I did kind of want to ask you about a few more kind of MGTOW-ish topics, because this was supposed to be kind of like a more MGTOW style interview.
Sorry about that.
It's not even. Actually, I don't think it's even.
We'll stop talking about vaginas.
Okay.
It's not even an interview anymore, actually. But anyway, so I was curious. I'm sure you've heard of these terms like hypergamy, NWALT, that stuff. So I was curious what your opinion is.
What's hypergamy? I have known it in the past, but I'm blank at the moment. What's hypergamy?
DDJ, you mind?
Hypergamy, in an overgeneralized sense, is the idea that women will go from man to man for the purposes of gaining resources. So once a man can no longer provide resources or stability to that woman, she's going to look to another man to find those things.
Basically, fall out of love with him, essentially. She loved him when he had money, not anymore when he doesn't. Yeah,
I get it. I mean, it sounds like a horrible thing, but let's face it. If your wife's vagina closed up, I mean,
exactly.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, it does kind of, it's really based off of evolutionary psychology. What men look for in women and what women look for in men, the most basic roles of men and women is that, as you said actually when we were talking about first wave feminism, is women take care of the children, but for that they need resources, and men what they want to reproduce, and for that they need a not closed up vagina.
Yes, spot on. So
anyway, you got to swipe the card. You got to swipe the credit card to open it up.
Yeah, actually, it does. I just remembered they did. Can't remember what it's. Not a study or whatever. Basically, they gave a group of monkeys basically money tokens, and they taught them that they can get. What was it? DDJ, did you see that?
That was a TFM video, but I forgot most
So basically,
of the information.
They taught them that with the tokens they could get. I think it was like food, right? Was it food, snacks, something like that? And almost instantly, the female monkeys started trading tokens for sex.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Fucking balls, fucking hooker monkeys.
It's actually really interesting, because you can even see Like this idea that feminism is like a new thing. It's. I mean, you can see it in Rome. You can see it in, because I know a lot of people are going to say it's like a Jewish conspiracy, right? I mean, you can see it like in Rome, in Japan. I really don't know how many Jews are in Japan. I don't think George Soros quite reached Japan yet. But you can even see it in animals if the conditions are met. Like
that's
in bonobos, I'm sure you've seen I think Karen Strawn even made a video about it.
Yeah, she's done some wacky videos like that.
It really just seems to be like if the conditions are met, then it's going to happen.
Well, it seems to be, that sort of tells you it's just it's at least partially just the nature of males and females.
Yeah, although definitely getting funding doesn't hurt.
Yeah, yeah.
Also, there was one more thing. I can't remember what it was.
By the way, I have some questions too. Once you're done there.
Yeah, no, you go ahead. I'll ask them when you're done.
Okay, while you're hunting. All right. So, Barry, I noticed that you made some videos about Steve Shives.
I did. Yeah, I do that on occasion.
Yeah. So, just to give you a little bit of ammo to bring Steve Shives back to reality. I don't know. Are you familiar with the U.S. organization called RAIN?
No.
They're the Rape, Abuse, Incest National Network.
Right.
They are the largest organization of its kind in the country.
Did you say incest?
I did. That's part of the name of their organization. Did you got some incest story you want to tell us, or are we going to go lean it in?
I'm trying to figure out. Are they supporting? Are they supporting incest?
No. They're like an anti-rape, anti-incest, anti-abuse.
They're not the pro-incest fucking fan.
Right. He's like, this stream's done. If you're not into incest, we can't talk anymore. So anyway, in 2014. And this is in my book as well, shameless show. They actually to the Department of Justice that debunks rape culture completely.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's a pretty crazy sort of thing. But so this idea when people start talking about rape culture, it's all a fiction. And it's interesting that Steve Shives and people like him start talking about how, they're just perpetuating rape culture. He has no clue what he's talking about.
I mean, as far as you know, has Steve Shives ever mentioned, was it RAIN, the organization?
He doesn't. He probably doesn't know that they exist. My guess is his wife doesn't let him out of the house long enough to do this research.
That's interesting. I'd love to have a look at that.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the quote right now, but I just thought it was interesting because you get all these people talking about rape culture, and it's just a fiction. It's a complete fiction. And here's the quote from their letter that I cite in the book, and this is from the RAIN president Scott Berkowitz and the vice president of public affairs Rebecca O'Connor. Apparently, I can't even read my own writing. My bad. And it's to the White House Task Force to Protect Women from Sexual Assault at the United States Department of Justice and the Office on Violence Against Women. And their letter states specifically, in the last few years, there's been an unfortunate trend toward blaming quote-unquote rape culture for the extensive problem of sexual violence on campuses.
I'm just looking at it now. I just searched it and found that exact wording.
Yeah, and rape is caused not by cultural factors, but by conscious decisions of a small percentage of the community to commit a violent crime. Now, the reason I bring that up is because, they trot out these 1 in 5 and 1 in 6 numbers. But the Bureau of Justice Statistics and the FBI completely debunks that.
That's golden. Yeah, thanks for that.
What are the real statistics?
And I go into that in my book as well. I got a whole chapter on it.
It's like 1 in 52 or something, isn't it?
No.
I think it's even less.
And these are numbers I got from the FBI and from Bureau of Justice Statistics. It goes from 1995 to 2014 is the time period I measured. Yeah. And rape has gone down, and this includes attempted rape. And it's less than 1%.
Is that right?
Now these are now
less than 1%.
So
of
less.
Of what?
Less than 1% of the population.
Has been raped.
So so that'd be about right, because the population's divided into two, males and females, so it'd be about 1 in 50.
Well, less than 1% isn't one. Yeah, you're right. It's about 1 in 50.
Yeah, so like you said, 1 in 53, basically.
But here's the thing. It's 1 in 50 that accuse. It's not 1 in 50 that are convicted.
Oh, right. Right.
Yeah, I saw a study that basically proved that at the very, very least, 40% of rape accusations are fake. Like at the very least, it was 40%.
There's numbers. Those numbers are all over the place.
Well,
some people say 2%. Some people say fucking.
Yeah, but you know why they say it's like the feminists say that it's 2% or even less, because to get a rape to be considered fake, the woman has to actually sign it herself. Like it's not enough that the police consider it fake. The woman has to actually sign on a piece of paper.
Well, where's this part of the law in US law?
Yeah, I think it's in US law.
It's not. It's the idea. I was a paralegal for over 10 years, and so I was actually working in the legal field. The challenge that you get is that when you start talking about these studies, most of them are not really studies; they're surveys. And I do include a study in my book. I'm not gonna spoil that, but I will say this: according to the FBI and the Bureau of Justice Statistics, of that 1 in 50 who accuse somebody of rape, there's only evidence enough to arrest them. In other words, the rape accusation is only credible enough in 39% of those cases.
Yeah.
So that's not convictions. That's just arrests. Now,
but it'd still be interesting. I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean that. I mean, if it's unprovable, it doesn't mean that it's fake.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to get that number. I mean, it's obviously impossible. We can't have that number, but it would be interesting to see how many fake accusations there are.
Yeah, you can never get an exact number on that though. It would always be kind of fuzzy.
Well, yeah, and so, I mean, all I'm saying is that this idea of rape culture is some kind of pandemic. It's pure fiction. Yeah, it's pure fiction. And the thing about this is the organization RAIN, they are a feminist organization. They are actually funded. Really? Oh yeah, okay. And they debunk it themselves.
That's really thanks for
that. What are they feminist about? Like what's the feminist views?
They actually, if you look on their website, they actually, and you listen to what they say, they're the ones that actually push out that 1 in 5 women have been raped, 1 in 6 women have been raped, rape is everywhere, and they actually push the idea of rape culture. And then when they sent this letter to the Department of Justice, the letter completely undermined everything they said.
So wait, they debunked themselves?
Correct.
Well, not themselves. They debunk the idea of rape culture. They don't put out the idea of rape culture then debunk themselves. That they just debunk the idea of rape culture.
Right.
That others have put out there.
Right. Actually, and here's the thing though: until that letter was released, they actually promoted the idea that rape culture existed. So they weren't the ones who created rape culture. In other words, they didn't create the term. But yeah, a lot of feminist organizations push this idea of rape culture. But the reality is that it just doesn't exist.
Well, the only fucking rape culture there is their feminists perpetuating this fear mongering of it. I mean, I'll never forget it's a video that I did fucking 8 months ago or something. This bird, she would have been, I don't know, 19 or 20, actually said, I need feminism because in the US there's a rape every 6 seconds.
Oh my, I think I saw that.
That might be self-rape, but that's called masturbation.
yeah.
I think it's a bit more common than 6 seconds.
It wasn't just that pissed me. What really pissed me off is you've then got all these prominent feminists, like YouTube feminists, that people fucking listen to, piling into a comment section going, oh, great video, sweetie, that's fantastic. Fuck off. That's bullshit. And you've got to call that out. And that's the reason I do, because these fucking dishonest cunts won't. It's fucking ridiculous.
Actually, and to take that a step further, I don't know how it is in Australia, and I don't know how it is in Israel. But in the United States, we have this legal term. It's called innocent until proven guilty, and the idea is that a man is considered Well, that's a whole different subject. But in criminal court, if a man is accused of a crime, right, he is entitled to an unbiased investigation by law enforcement. He's entitled to an attorney. He's entitled to a jury of his peers. He's entitled to see all of his evidence. And more importantly, he's actually entitled to confront his accuser. And so,
well, I think that's pretty universal, isn't it? I think that stems back to fucking Magna Carta, doesn't it?
yeah, it's based in English common law. It actually is. But it was codified in the United States back in the late 1800s. And so, by the Supreme Court. But the idea, though, is that, in my opinion, is this. If someone accuses somebody of a crime, they better file a police report. And the problem that we have in the United States is that, everybody's accusing everybody of rape. And nobody's filing any police reports. And my example in the current news is Steve Harvey. Steve Harvey's wife is suing him for $60 million because he is supposedly raped and tortured her. You know what?
And there's no police report. There's no
police report.
Yeah.
No investigation.
What are your thoughts on the colleges expelling and taking action based on preponderance of evidence?
So my theory is this, and I go into this in more detail in my book. Anytime you accuse a man of a crime, and you accuse him in a civil setting, like a family court, like a college campus, anything but a criminal investigation, right? You deny that man's due process because in a civil setting, in a college setting, he doesn't have the right to an investigation. Let's take colleges specifically, so like Title IX, right? In a Title IX setting, if I go to college, I date some chick, she decides I've raped her the next morning after we've had sex, she goes and reports it to the Title IX office or to the college campus, then I have feminist ideologues who already hate men doing the investigation. I don't have a police department. I have no guarantee of that. When I go to the actual tribunal, I don't know what the evidence is. I'm not allowed to confront my accuser. I don't have a criminal jury of my peers, and I don't have a right to remain silent. And so the right to remain silent is enshrined in the United States Constitution. It's one of the strongest rights that we have. However, it can be waived. So what you have is this separate, I like to refer to it as a witch hunting organization on college campuses and in family courts where they deny a man his constitutional, legal, and due process rights in an effort to demonize him as a rapist. And the reason that this is troubling is because in the United States, men, they're pissed. They're done. They're suing
they
left
really
and
do
right.
hunt you down though. They actually have like the feminists, that they have their sites of men that have simply been accused and they save the names.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna, I'll touch on that. But
They
the point
really
I'm
do
trying
that
to make
basically
is,
hunt you down for that.
Yeah, and they do have Facebook groups for that. They have hidden Facebook groups that document names. They've got Google documents in the cloud where they're making witch hunting lists of people they've accused of rape. But to bring this back full circle, the men have gotten upset. They're started suing, and they're winning 70% of the time because they're saying, "Look, you violate." Oh yeah, it's an absolute disaster. And because what they're doing is they're saying, "Look, you're denying me my due process rights." And there's a case that I talk about in my book where not only are these issues indefensible? But in this one case I talk about in my book, there was a police investigation. The guy contacted the police. The police investigated the accusation. The college investigated the accusation. The college went to string the guy up, suspended him. The police found out she made it up. They put a warrant out for her arrest. That's how strong their evidence was. And she fled the state.
Yeah.
And she never came back. She's still a fugitive from the law. She fled the state. And the college took almost 2 years to reinstate this man.
Yeah, and by that stage, his academic career's fucked. Tell me, did you ever watch? I did a live stream probably 6 months ago with an ex American prosecutor. I'm not sure what state he worked in. A bloke by the name of Nick McLean.
I've not heard of him. I'll watch the stream though.
I've just put a link in the description. It
doesn't work.
Okay.
It's the link doesn't. The video is unavailable.
Oh, sorry. 1 sec.
Actually, there's something I wanted to talk about when we talk about rape culture, and that is
go for it.
That should be fixed up now.
If there's a rape culture in the US, I'd have to say it's against men. I mean, when you look at the way it's like when you look at the way it's handled, there's no funding. Under the law, men unless you're basically under the age of 18, it's not even considered rape. And just like,
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen some just really like disgusting cases where.
Hang on a sec. What did you say? Unless you're under the age of 18, it's not considered rape.
Well, basically,
What was it?
because and basically a woman can only like rape a man if it's statutory rape, because otherwise like, there's certain really weird criteria that they have to meet for it to be rape, and
Is that right? I thought that was starting to change. Is that?
Well, I know they tried a petition in the UK to get it so that women could rape men basically under the law. But the way the UK responded was just ridiculous. Basically, the government said that the law already protects men, and then it just gave them the same criteria that they were complaining about. All it did was just repeat what they said. They basically proved their point, but they considered that somehow saying that it protects men under the law. And like to give you a real world a real life example, there was basically a case. I saw this on a MGTOW video. It got on the news, so I'm sure you must have heard of it too. It's pretty popular, maybe a couple months ago. And it was basically a woman that got drunk, and she crept into like some guy's room, and he was like completely like knocked out. He wasn't aware of anything. He was just lying on his bed, I think. And she basically gave him a blowjob, then tweeted about it to like one of her friends. Said
I did hear about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, and then she went to have sex with someone else, and then she ended up accusing him of rape. So she basically, and not anyone would consider that rape, not just the feminists. I mean, like giving someone a blowjob while they're knocked out. That's anyone would consider that rape.
He actually got kicked out of college for that.
Yeah, he was the one. Yeah. He basically got kicked out for being raped.
Yeah, well, and to take that a step further, it's not, just so we're on the same page, it's not that the United States says that women can't rape. What the problem is that the way the laws are worded, they're worded as though they were created, many of these laws were created in the 80s when feminists first started getting a lot of power in government. And so the laws are worded in a way that it's very difficult for a man to say that he has been raped. Now, under sexual assault laws, it's a little bit easier to claim. But if you look at, for example, when you talk about rape culture and you talk about what kind of rape culture we have, in my view, it's twofold. One, it's a rape culture where a woman can falsely accuse a man of rape and everybody will witch hunt him. And the second piece of it is that women are sexually assaulting young men, post-pubescent young boys and prepubescent young boys in some cases. And you see the media refer to these rapists as, they just had an inappropriate relationship, and they dial it way down. And
actually, if you want to take it a step further, I mean, they're basically some of them even sue their victims for child support, and once they turn 18, they win, because doesn't matter if you were raped. As a man, if you have a child with a woman, consensually or non-consensually, you have to pay for it. So that even goes like beyond rape culture, because that's incentivizing it. There's literally a monetary incentive there, and that, I know of at least 2 cases that they won. They actually made their statutory rape victim pay for being raped.
Yeah, it does happen. Mm.
So and actually it kind of goes the same for the wage gap, because like I don't really have any evidence to say that men get paid less for the same job, but there's actually, in some at least, I think Vodafone, Vodafone did that. I saw that from you, but it's really like everything they complain about, you can easily, with just like 5 minutes of research, just flip it around. Like there's a glass ceiling. What do you call it? What do you call affirmative action?
It's this assumption that women are downtrodden somehow, and that we must fix it for them. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like with rape culture, when they talk about like a glass ceiling for women at work, like what do you call the affirmative action? That's a glass ceiling on men. Everything they say, you can easily just flip it around on them.
Yeah.
Actually,
I think there's 2 sides of the same. I think there's there's 2 sides to every coin on that.
Definitely.
I mean, and I think that some of the things where you see the disparity in the workplace, it's a question of whether or not women are interested in those things. It's like the whole STEM field argument. We need more women in STEM. Well, don't choose gender studies. How about that?
Yeah, we don't need more women in STEM. They want more women in STEM to feel like things are equal.
Yeah. Did you have any other questions, or did you want me to ask?
Actually, I just remembered what I wanted to ask. Bearing, and that I wrote it in the chat. Basically, is that how you spell it? Gynocentrism?
Yeah.
Because
Might as well be.
there's no autocorrect for it, so I always spell it differently. It's not a recognized word. But
Is that your
essentially,
question? Is that how you spell it? I don't know.
Yeah, that's
I know what you mean.
so yeah, I wanted to. I think the only anti-SJW I've heard mentioned is Tittle Deer and what's it called, feminism law and Diana Davison and what's her name? The other one that basically the men's rights activist face,
Karen Strawn.
Yeah, her. So those are the only people I've ever seen even bring it up, and I was curious what your opinion is on it. Do you think it's a real thing? Do you think it exists?
Oh yeah. I mean, it goes back to what we were saying before. There's humans are biologically programmed to protect women, and there's that's not all bad. We wouldn't have evolved to what we are now if it wasn't that way.
There's a reason for it, evolutionary reason for everything.
But it can go too far, and I think we do see a bit of that these days. But I mean, gynocentrism is I tend to focus on individual issues more than sweeping trends. So it's not something I talk about a lot. But I do think it exists. I think that it is partially necessary for our evolution. But I mean, it can be a bad thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, protecting women is at the very least is necessary. As you said, it is part of evolution. Everything really. There's a reason for everything. Hypergamy, gynocentrism. It all came out of necessity, essentially, and it's.
If we weren't programmed to essentially but defend women, then we wouldn't. We may not be here, so
exactly.
It does have a function, but I mean, it certainly can be. A bad thing when cultures get to, I suppose, the way ours largely has, in the last few decades, I suppose, where it's where what we've been talking about, where it's all for the woman and fuck men. That's a bad thing.
So, DDJ, what do you think of it?
I think that gynocentrism is an issue, but I agree that, at some level you're going to trade off, right? If you look at the traditional, like the old school patriarchal system, and I'm not talking about the reframing that feminists do where they say, oh, patriarchy oppresses women. I did a bunch of research on it for my book. I could not find a single civilization outside of Islam that where patriarchal society went out of its way to oppress women. I just couldn't find them. So when we talk about that old school patriarchy, that's that cliched version of, the husband or the father is the provider and the mom or the woman is the homemaker and she takes care of those things. I think that it's a trade-off, The mom was making decisions around the house and kind of what she did was how the program went. And outside the home, or when it came to the provision, it was the father or the husband that made those decisions. And you see examples of this in almost every culture throughout history when it comes to those kind of scenarios. Now, when it comes to things happening today, I don't know how it is in the UK. I don't know necessarily how it is in Australia, but I can tell you that today, feminists have created policies that run the country. If you look at family courts are completely run by feminists. Family court organizations, the civil restraining order, all those things are run by feminists. In academia, in the United States, it's completely overrun through feminists and their SJW allies. And you can see this through the protests and everything else. So this is gynocentrism to an extreme, to the point where it starts hurting everybody around them. And it's now we're starting to see that the social welfare state is collapsing in on itself as a direct result of it.
Yeah, but actually, even when you bring up Islam, even that is debatable to a certain extent. Because I've heard people straight from Saudi Arabia, basically saying that what we think of it is, we kind of see it differently because they say that all the women they know are basically princesses. Like they're
but some shocking shit
does
happen to women in the Middle East, though. You can't deny that.
Women are getting stoned to death.
Oh, definitely. No, obviously that's. I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm just saying that it's you tend to see gynocentrism to a certain extent in every culture. So some countries have it more, some countries have it less. And at the very least, in a society, you're at least going to see it. Like, even in the most patriarchal society, you're going to see it at the very least in the sense that they want to protect women.
Well, we only have two hard patriarchies in the world right now.
Yeah, actually, it's not really because of Islam. It's not because of the religion itself. It's more because a society it's really more about being, because of the war and because it's poor. It's not because of the religion itself. I mean, if Islam was rich, then the same thing that happened to Christianity would happen to Islam. Christianity started out similar to Islam, saying women must obey men, that stuff. And then the easier life got, the more
Yeah, but I think Islam's about 500 years behind fucking Christianity. And look at the fucked up things that the book tells them to do. I mean, you don't see a lot of that in Christianity, at least.
Well, and if you look at it, and I don't want to degenerate into a conversation about Islam, but I will say this. If you look at Christianity, right, and Old Testament is pretty rough. I know the Bible pretty well. So the Old Testament is pretty rough. But when you look at the New Testament was all about, forgiveness and coming together and that kind of thing. If you look at the book, like the Quran, and I don't mean any disrespect to any Islamic people out there, but if you look at the Quran and you look at Muhammad, the main difference between Muhammad and the Prophet Muhammad and, Christianity is Muhammad was a conqueror. If you were not Islamic, you were considered the infidel. And when it comes to the infidel, guess what? The rules don't apply to you. So, he was a conqueror. He killed people. He murdered people. He attacked people. And he even says it. If you look at the Quran, he says, this is how you have to go do that. And you look at the immigrants that are going into Europe, for example, they said in 2012 and 2013, 2014, we're going to show up in your towns and in your cities in Europe. We're going to immigrate there and we're going to rape your women and we're going to take over your culture. And now you look at it in 2017 and you see they're attempting to do exactly what prominent voices were saying 3 and 4 years ago.
Yeah, that's chilling.
Actually, I was curious about I've been noticing definitely a shift in the anti-feminist community, and I'm really new to the whole MGTOW anti-feminism and that stuff. I mean, I think maybe even less than half a year. I had no idea about any of this, and I think part of it's because it didn't quite reach Israel yet. The whole feminist thing. You definitely have like a lot of female groups lobbying for. Just endless privileges for women, but they don't really call themselves feminists, so you don't. No one tends to talk about it. But anyway, I noticed that whenever I do try to bring up topics like gynocentrism, or if I say we don't have equality under the law, because a lot of people tend to just shut it down. I try to bring up just give all sorts of rights that women have over men, and the people tend to shut it down. So do you think the communities, some people are open to these things, or they believe that we already have equality under the law?
Yeah. There's a lot of people. Yeah. There's a lot of denying. The issues. That's for sure.
Because I think even you made a few videos on a couple ways men are discriminated against. So I don't really get how the same people that, I mean, even if you didn't, there's so many others out there that make videos on how men are discriminated against. How can you see it and then deny it at the same time?
No, I have made videos along those lines. I mean, look, some people it's not something they care about. It's like we were saying before, people care about their jobs and they care about their house and their family, and as long as those things are right, then everything's good in their world. And look, part of me doesn't blame them, but I mean, some people see it differently and choose to see these issues like us, I suppose.
I guess a lot of people do tend to have the attitude that as long as it's not affecting you, it basically doesn't exist.
Mm.
I
Yeah,
think
exactly.
it's I think it's a little unfortunate though that because that's kind of what lets it's part of this is why it happens. This is why all these laws come about, because people that they don't think it's gonna be a serious problem. They don't think it's gonna affect them until it does.
Or either that or certain laws came about when there actually were issues and they're outdated, or they're of a different time. They're just not necessary anymore.
It's a culture shift. Sometimes the laws don't.
No, that's definitely a problem. But did you actually see that now? Even the right are essentially trying to basically attack men's rights. Not I wouldn't say like directly attack their rights, but they're trying to expand the family court in some state in America. I can't remember.
I didn't see that. No.
What state is that?
It's in Oklahoma, and actually they've been doing this for a long time. So basically what they've decided to do, Baron, is that in Oklahoma they've created a unified family court, and what they're allowing it to do is to hear domestic violence cases and other kind of cases with the same judge, so that feminist judge can start making decisions on everything that's involved with that family as opposed to just the divorce.
Oh, shit. Yeah, that can't be good.
Yes, I don't think I really don't think there's a single politician or not that I know of, or single, I guess, political group that is. I've never really seen a political group campaigning for men's rights, other than the MRAs, but they don't really are they in office somehow, or do they have any political power?
No, they're not. I just don't think it's a vote getter.
So it seems like it really is impossible to get like any men's rights group to have any sort of power.
Well, you have to understand, and here I go. This is the internet, so I apologize, audience. I have to do this.
Conspiracy theory.
Nazi Germany only had 10 years to change its society, right? So, and now we have neo-Nazis over 50 years later after the Third Reich was defeated, and Nazi culture is, you see it everywhere. It's in like Ukraine, it's in Europe, it's in the United States. There's white supremacy in a variety of spots under the neo-Nazi banner, right? They had 10 years. Think about that. That's a decade. Yeah. Feminism has been moving as an organization for a century. Mm-hmm. So they've had a lot more time to deal with that. And anytime an MRA steps up and tries to change things, what ends up happening is that they get labeled as a misogynist or a rape apologist, or they get reframed, and they get wrecked. So yeah, the MRAs aren't going to do anything, sadly, not by themselves.
And DDG, I think I've asked pretty much at least my most important questions, and Baron's got to go soon. So you wanted to share your MGTOW story, right? You had something you wanted to say.
Oh, I just. Yeah, I was just saying that I don't necessarily. I know you've got to go soon, Baron. I appreciate you taking the time today. My story is a little bit more involved, but I'll try to give you the Reader's Digest version. Sure. I was I was married at a young age. I was 18, so I knew everything. And I married. I had 2 children with the woman. I ended up taking custody after the divorce, and then there was a big, huge divorce fight that I'm not going to get into here. But needless to say, I ended up winning the divorce fight after a lot of trial and tribulation. And then I remarried, and we were together 17 years. And I was able to use, because, there's a lot of, you can't use your ex's infidelity in court. So we were in court. I was actually able to use her infidelity to not necessarily for the purposes of divorce, but for the purposes of child custody, so that I could demonstrate that her infidelity was a symptom of mental health problems like narcissism, bipolar disorder, things like that, and to show how that would be a problem with children. Yeah, and these are proven. Like this is.
And is that usually not accepted?
Nobody usually makes the argument. I did it in most of the paralegal cases I touched, and I would always win. Usually what would happen is the opposing side would be like, oh, wow, he's got peer-reviewed journals and everything, and so the attorney I'd work with would bring all that up. And then they'd be like, we need to have a recess so we can settle. And then they would settle out of court and we'd move on with our day. Well, I did it to my ex-wife and ended up custody with my younger two children as well. So I fought 2 divorces of my own, won both times, and, did that for 10 years as a paralegal in the family law system. And I was a family law paralegal. But yeah.
This book of yours, it's going to be interesting. I can't wait to read it.
Well, what I want to do is, if you're interested, is I'll share it in the chat so that nobody gets a copy as well. And then if you want to read a draft of it to kind of give you a primer of what's coming, then go from there. Because the idea is that it really debunks. I have a lot of citations and sourcing, and I really go out of my way to debunk most of feminist ideology. And I'm
more than interested in reading that.
So
even the first wave feminists, they did campaign for a bachelor tax. So
well, they campaigned for all kinds of things. First wave feminists were racist. So
yeah. I think that's why they tried to get the abortion, right? Wasn't that the reason a woman pushed for abortion so they could abort black babies or something?
They used to fucking blow shit up, didn't they?
That was
prohibition.
You're talking about Margaret Sanger, yeah.
And then you obviously
Margaret
have the white
Sanger
feather movement.
Yeah. Give me just a second here. I'll see if I can find it here real quick.
So while DDJ is looking, I wanted to actually say this at the start, but in case anyone that's watching this is wondering, I do actually interview basically anyone. So if you have 0 subs or 1 million subs, I'm more than happy to interview you. But contact me or something if you want to be interviewed. It doesn't. You can be a feminist, anti-feminist, MGTOW, random anyone. That doesn't really matter.
Beautiful. That file you sent. I don't have a Kindle. Can I open that on an iPad?
Yeah, you can open it. You can go get the Kindle app and you can open it on any. Yeah, and you can do it on your laptop. You can do it on your desktop, whatever you want. But yeah, you don't necessarily need a Kindle to do it.
Yeah, it sounds good. I'll have a read of that for sure. That sounds good.
Perfect.
All right. Well, it was good to meet you guys.
Yeah. Thanks.
You as well. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for your time, Barry.
Thank you.
I think at the start, you thought I was an angry misogynist.
Oh, not necessarily. Yeah.
When I brought up the vote, I think definitely something happened there.
I've had some conversations with some particularly bitter MGTOW people. It just sounded like a familiar line of questioning. That's all. If you haven't seen Angry MGTOW, go and have a look at his videos. He's not a bad guy, but he's
No, I know. I'm subscribed to him because he does.
Oh, you are.
He does actually. I don't like his angry side, but he does review articles before anyone else. So I really like that because I really like his videos when he actually reviews really interesting articles, literally sometimes days before anyone else will even notice them.
Yeah, I like stirring him up.
That's nice.
I asked him. In the first time I ever spoke to him. Right, this is within 5 minutes of meeting the guy. I said because he does push some weird shit we've got we've got the ability to make artificial wombs now. There's sex robots. We don't need women. He actually pushes that sort of stuff. And I asked him. I said, so you're a MGTOW, right? So when you jerk off, what do you think about?
Oh, I saw that.
He didn't like that. He fucking didn't like that.
I think that was the first video I ever saw of someone noticing MGTOW, and I was quite. I was actually kind of pleased that at least MGTOW was getting noticed.
I thought he didn't know how to answer that. He was a bit taken aback, but I thought it was a fair point. What do you think? Do you think about clothes? Or do you think about?
Well, you've got the common sense MGTOW, and then you have the MGTOW that just aren't. Like you said, it's like a bell curve in any group. You've got the people that are more reasonable, and then you have the people on the outliers that are not so much.
Oh, look! I mean, having said that, do you guys know Dr. Randa McCann?
Nope.
I've heard of him.
Dr. Randomcam is hands down my favourite YouTuber. You should be subscribed to him. He's the funniest motherfucker, and he's brilliantly intelligent. He's absolutely amazing. He's a MGTOW. Now, my favourite content creator is a MGTOW. So yeah, I think
Good to know.
there's a wide spectrum.
Definitely, because MGTOW is it's a philosophy. So that to be a MGTOW, you're gonna have so many types of MGTOW, because it's such a. I mean, what is it? Don't get married. Don't be gynocentric, and I guess have a penis. Like that's it. Then you're all you have to do then is identify as a MGTOW, and congratulations. So you're gonna have a lot of MGTOW. Like everything
there's
else.
The card. Remember, you got to have the card. We discussed
that. Right. Got to join the club. You got to get to the the 9th level of MGTOW.
You just got to just whip your dick out. I suppose that's your card.
Right.
All right, boys. Lovely to chat. We'll speak again soon.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for joining, Baring. Bye. Well, that was productive.
Yeah, it was. Thank you. I appreciate it. I didn't mean to chat so much. I apologize. Sometimes I'm
no. That's why I brought you. I need someone else to help represent MGTOW properly.
Sure.
I was a bit worried because Baring he's a big YouTuber, so I was worried that maybe I'd do I'd somehow make a fool of myself and make MGTOW look like even more of a laughing stock than it is. So and I know you're a well-spoken guy, so it was you and TFM I wanted. Actually, TFM said he was at work though, so he couldn't join.
Right on. All right. Well, you take care, man, okay?
Yeah, you too. Anyway, good night.
All right. Good night.